Hey guys, today's video is entitled How Bad Do You Want It? And this could really be applied to anything, any kind of goal you have. And this is sort of a follow-up to a video I did a couple weeks ago called Build Back Better, in which we talked about kind of pulling yourself up after you've been knocked down. Now, whatever it is, whether you want to start a business, whether you want to start a family, whether you want to get a stronger body, or whatever goals you have, it's all going to come down really to how bad do you want it in terms of whether or not you're successful. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. You know, I don't care if you're watching this video in your mom's basement right now and don't have a penny to your name. Like, I've been there. I don't care if you're living under a bridge or in the back of a van, because I've been there too. All that really matters is, what are you willing to do to change that situation and to achieve your goal? So I had this dream of starting a farm. This was about 10 years ago. And at the time I had no money and I had no farming experience, but I could see the world was going in a bad way, and something told me, like, I need to learn how to grow food. I didn't grow up farming. I grew up in the suburbs, never grown a plant in my life. And you know, I really had no starting point except a desire to learn. And so my girlfriend and I at the time, we traveled around the country. We worked on different farms, gained a little bit of experience, and I just took in everything I could to learn about farming. I just became a sponge, right? And I was just always thinking, how can I make this work? How can I make this work? And, you know, trying to figure out some kind of a model to make it all happen. And, you know, little by little, that model started to come together. And then it was really time to just kind of put it into play. And I was working for my buddy at the time, doing details, you know, detailing cars and boats. And I started just, you know, basically out of a suburban backyard. We were living in Chicago at the time, and my grandma lived just outside the city, and she was kind enough to let me till up her backyard. And so, you know, that's essentially where I started farming for myself. It was just a small garden, but it got me into the process of selling to chefs and doing farmers markets. And you know, I didn't really make anything. It took a ton of sacrifice. It took any day off I had, I'd work 40, 60 hours for my buddy. And then if I had 2 days off a week, I was up there putting in, you know, 10, 12-hour days, which I was happy to do because, you know, I was doing it for myself. I was building something. I wasn't just working for a paycheck. And if I were to actually track my hours from that year, you know, I probably made less than $3 an hour farming, if I made anything at all. You know, I had to buy wheelbarrows and shovels, and, you know, I was literally starting from the ground up, but I was doing it. It was exciting. And what I did gain from that was a little bit of experience that I could then build upon. So the next year, we moved down to North Carolina. And for anybody who's interested in farming or starting a farm, you know, even if you don't really have any experience, there's a cool site called FarmLink, and they have one for every single state. And so you can look at the state you want to live in, and just, you know, people with land post opportunities. And that's kind of what happened down here. There's an older couple who had the dream of starting a farm. They never really got around to it. They had the land, and they, you know, put it up on this site looking for people to lease it. And so that's really how it started. Now, what it's taken since, I can't underestimate. Like, it has taken, not just in terms of everything, you know, financially, taking on a lot of debt, taking on a lot of stress, taking on just the workload. I mean, I was pulling 100-hour weeks for the first, I don't know, four years maybe. And even still, it's a lot. Now, it's gotten to a point where I've got some employees. It's not all on me, and things are starting to roll, and that's great. And it gives me flexibility. It gives me flexibility to go and, you know, if my kids are doing something, if they're going on a field trip, you know, I have the freedom. I don't have to check in with anybody. I can just go. Or if I need to go to, you know, somewhere because there's a family emergency, I can just go, and the business can run without me. And that's great to see, but it wasn't always that way. And it's taken a lot to get there. And so I guess what I would say is, if you really want something, and having a business is almost like having a child in a way, in that it demands a lot of your attention, a lot of your time, and you're going to have to put in the work. But if you do, you know, for the right person, I think it's worth it. And I think you just have to ask yourself, you know, am I that type of person? Because I do believe it's something that's hardwired into us. You know, I know a lot of people that they want to just go to the job, get a paycheck, have fun on the weekends, raise their families, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Owning a business and owning a farm has its share of headaches, but for me personally, I would be bored doing anything else. I've probably worked over 20 some jobs, maybe 30 jobs in my life, all different industries. I've worked in the restaurant industry, the automobile industry. I've worked in the corporate world. I've caddied. I mean, I was a shoe shine at a country club. I've valeted cars. I mean, I've literally done it all. And every single job I've pretty much hated, with the exception of maybe snowplow and detailing for my buddy, because both of those I was working for him, and it was fun because I was working, you know, working with my best friend. So, but every other job, you know, it was very hard for me to do. It actually seemed to take more energy from me. I remember when I worked in the corporate world, it just felt like time would drag on forever. And now it's like I'll look up at my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already 2. You know, it's like the day just flies by. And so, you know, I'm okay putting in the hours. And, you know, in terms of my free time, I don't really have much. You know, I work, I'm a dad, and I go to church, and that's it. You know, it's work, kids, church, and that's about it. Sometimes I go to the gym, but for the most part, that's kind of the routine. And I love all of those things. And if I didn't, I guess it would be not a very, very fulfilling life. But in terms of like, you know, I have a friend, and we're always talking. I'm always giving him business ideas. He's not wanting to just start a straight up business, but basically, you know, something like, he's got a beautiful property. And so we're always coming up with ideas. You know, I'm telling him, dude, start a farm. As long as you sell $1,000 worth of eggs or even firewood, you will qualify as a farm, and then you can write off all your expenses. You can write off, you know, your gasoline, you can write off your electric, your internet bill, all these things you can then write off, so that you can keep more money from your day job that would just go to taxes. And then you can take that money, you can reinvest it in various, you know, forms of equipment, and you can build like that. And that's, you know, the most successful people I've known in business, that's how they've done it. They didn't really take any money out of the business. They just kept building. They kept buying more equipment. They kept buying new, like they just kept. And so money that would have essentially been stolen from them now is reinvested in their business, which then makes them more money. And this is how businesses grow. So I'm trying to, you know, and I'll come up with all these ideas, and we'll game plan and this and that. But at the end of the day, nothing's really happened. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, it's really hard to make that sacrifice, because what is it, you know, what are you going to have to give up, and are you willing to give it up? So, you know, for a lot of people, video games is a big one, right? Video games is probably the biggest waste of time on the planet, along with scrolling Facebook and things like that. And these are these little pleasures that, you know, people, they work their day job, they come home, I just want to, like, you know, tune out and play some video games. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But don't tell me that you want to build a business, that you want to build this thing, but you don't want to make the sacrifice because you can't give up video games. You know, video games is the easiest thing for somebody to give up. And I don't see how you can do it without that. It's like saying, well, I want to build my body, but I don't want to give up eating, you know, chicken tenders and ice cream for dinner. It's like, well, you kind of have to make a choice. And so that's what I'm trying to get at, is how bad do you want it, whatever that is. If you want a family, how bad do you want that family? Like, how bad, and what is it going to take for you as a man or a woman to go and try to make that happen? You know, to find a partner that has the things you're looking for, the virtues that you're looking for. I think you really need to embody those virtues yourself. And that's oftentimes easier said than done. Now, one last thing I'll say about starting a business is, really, you know, at a certain point, hard work, it's going to take hard work. It's going to take sacrifice. That goes without saying. You can't even get in the game without those things. But at a certain point, it's going to take something else, because there's plenty of people that have put in a lot of hard work. made a lot of sacrifices, and their businesses still failed. And anytime you own a business, it's always, everything's up in the air. You know, you're kind of all in all the time. And if you're not okay with that, I'd say it's probably not for you. Like I said, I believe certain people are just hardwired this way to accept the risk, and also they just won't be happy doing anything else. So if that's you, and this is the only path, the last thing I would say about starting a business is you're going to need guidance. And, you know, guidance from people who have done it is great. You can learn a ton from them, even if they're not in your industry, just other business people, other entrepreneurs. The way their minds work is they see opportunity everywhere, and they understand value and what it means in terms of providing value to people. And they're very good at seeing these opportunities. And so those are great resources. But, you know, I just look at my own situation. And I've been to the brink of bankruptcy many times. I've, you know, like I said, I've worked myself to exhaustion. I've been all in for years, right? And it's only recently, since coming to Christ, that I've actually been asking for guidance. And before then, I was just trying to guide myself. And I can look back and I can see I made a lot of foolish decisions, and decisions that were just, I was spinning my wheels. Like, I couldn't really get above it to see the bigger picture. And then, you know, since asking God to guide me, it seems like things are revealed. And that even goes to just what direction I should go in, right? My job now is basically a series of bets. And you can look at it like that. Like, if we're going to release a new product or something, I'm making a bet that this investment to get this product to market is going to yield more than what it takes to, you know, to get to that point. And so on certain levels, it's like, well, where is the biggest return for my time? Where is, you know, how can I steer the ship in such a way that it'll be successful and provide, you know, a good working environment for people, and just overall run successfully. And so what I would say is, you know, it's really hard to guide yourself. And this goes, again, for all things. This goes not just for business, but for, you know, trying to find a spouse, or trying to discern between a big life decision and which way you should go. And I personally don't believe, actually, I know I don't have the wisdom or the foresight to guide myself. So I'm always asking God for guidance. And I will say it comes in various ways. It comes in sometimes in totally unexpected ways. Sometimes it's counterintuitive. For instance, right now, you know, the majority of our revenue from Akira has been, you know, through live resin vape carts. That's been sort of the big thing for us. And, you know, I guess it's been great. It's people really seem to love our carts, and I'm happy. But as I've started to sit with this question, it doesn't feel like the direction I want to go in. And so what I mean by it being counterintuitive is to say, okay, I want to pull back from the thing that's producing 80% of our revenue, or whatever it is. It's the majority, right? I'm going to pull back from this thing, and instead I want to focus on oil and salve. Because I believe, you know, something like, you know, these CBD oil or these other cannabinoids in conjunction with CBD, I think is truly healing. So it's getting kind of away from the recreational side of things and getting more into the medicinal side of things, and particularly focusing on non-psychoactive cannabinoids like CBD, CBDV, THCV, CBG. My heart's telling me this is the direction I want to go in, but it's totally counterintuitive from a business standpoint. And so, you know what, nonetheless, if that's the way, that's the way. And so it's all about, you know, trying to orientate yourself in the right direction, and, you know, just, and really putting it in God's hands. You know, I just look, and I've been so blessed to make it to this point, because like I said, my back has been up against the wall so many times, and every single time something's come through. And I'm super grateful for that, and I'm super grateful to be able to do what I do, and it's work that I truly love, and you know, I really wouldn't want to do anything else. And so anyway, I think there's a big element of all of this is in asking God to guide you and to, you know, orientate you in the right direction. And like I said, this is for all things. This doesn't have to be starting business. This is just be like, look, I'm kind of lost right now. There was a long period there where I just felt lost. I just didn't know where I fit into the world. And I had to go through this journey of kind of traveling and trying this and trying that, and unfortunately kind of going down some bad paths. But ultimately, God kind of brought me back, and I guess I had enough sense to find farming, which was for me the first time that I really felt like, oh, this is actually, this is kind of what I've been looking for in terms of what I should do for work, right? And so it's going to be different for every single person. And I just think it's hard to figure these things out on your own. So to have the humility to ask, God, who knows us better than anyone, to really just guide us and to set us in the right direction so that we can do his will and so that we can be what he created us to be, I think is a good way to, to start every day. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.